Jason Miller, a successful owner of a luxury bike shop, goes undercover as a regular customer to see how his employees treat people. But as he stands near the register, two men laughing nearby say something that makes him freeze. Because what they just revealed could shut down his entire business. Jason Miller had always prided himself on the reputation of his business, Miller's Elite Cycles. From its humble beginnings, he had built the shop into a haven for cycling enthusiasts, offering high-end bicycles and a customer service experience that matched the luxury of the products. The shop's polished floors, sleek display racks, and the gleaming array of bicycles were a testament to his dedication and hard work. However, recently, whispers of trouble began to surface. Rumors of discrimination against certain customers and allegations of overcharging had started to tarnish the reputation of Miller's Elite Cycles. At first, Jason found these accusations hard to believe. Could his employees, trained under his own rigorous standards, really be engaging in such practices? He needed to see for himself what was happening on the shop floor. Determined to get to the bottom of these disturbing reports, Jason decided to go undercover. Ditching his usual business attire for something far less conspicuous, he donned a pair of casual jeans and a plain jacket, topped off with sunglasses to obscure his well-known face. His transformation complete, he walked into Miller's Elite Cycles, not as the owner, but as an ordinary customer curious about the latest bike models. His plan was simple: blend in, observe, and listen. Jason wanted to experience the service firsthand, to hear how his staff interacted with customers when they didn't know he was watching. He meandered through the aisles, his expert eyes casually scrutinizing the displayed bikes while his ears stayed alert to the conversations around him. As Jason pretended to examine a particularly expensive road bike, a conversation between two customers near the register caught his attention. They weren't merely discussing the merits of a mountain bike. They were sharing experiences about the service they had received. Their words were hushed, but charged with emotion, hinting at something deeper, more troubling than simple dissatisfaction. One of the customers, a young woman, recounted her story of visiting the shop last week. "I was quoted a price way higher than what's advertised online," she said, frustration evident in her tone. The other, an older gentleman, nodded in agreement, adding, "And I've noticed they tend to be more attentive to certain types of customers, if you know what I mean." Their conversation unfolded, revealing personal accounts of subtle biases and financial discrepancies that they had brushed off at the time, but now recognized as patterns. Jason felt a chill run down his spine. These were not isolated incidents, but symptoms of systemic issues that had somehow taken root in his business. His initial shock turned into a growing sense of urgency. The implications were severe, not just for the reputation of Miller's Elite Cycles, but for its very survival. Discrimination and dishonest pricing could unravel all that he had worked so hard to build. This was more than poor customer service. It was a direct contradiction of the core values Jason had instilled in his company. As he continued to listen, the gravity of the situation became undeniable. The truth, hidden from his daily view by his trust in his staff and the routine operations of business, struck him profoundly. It was clear that urgent changes were necessary. What started as a routine visit to dispel doubts had morphed into a mission to salvage the integrity of his business. Jason knew what he had to do next. The conversation between the customers was not just a revelation, it was a call to action. He had to confront the issues head-on and ensure that Miller's Elite Cycles represented the best in the industry, not only in products, but in fairness and respect for all customers. Jason continued his undercover exploration of Miller's Elite Cycles with a sinking feeling. The initial excitement of going incognito had quickly given way to concern as he observed the store's operations from the perspective of an average customer. It was becoming painfully clear that the service experience was drastically different depending on one's appearance and perceived status. As he meandered through the aisles, Jason noted how employees were quick to approach customers dressed in high-end attire or who exuded a sense of affluence. These customers received smiles, enthusiastic greetings, and attentive service. In stark contrast, Jason, dressed in his nondescript jeans and jacket, received little more than cursory glances. No one approached him to ask if he needed help or to offer information about the latest models. despite his lingering looks at some of the more expensive bikes on display. This selective attention was troubling enough, but what Jason overheard near the register was far more disturbing. Two young white men stood there, one leaning casually against a counter, the other flipping through a brochure. Their conversation was meant to be private, but their voices carried in the quiet lull of the mid-morning. "Bro, I told you they totally jack up the prices for Black and Hispanic customers. My cousin got scammed last week." One of them laughed, a smirk playing across his face. The other nodded in agreement, his chuckle low but clear. "Yeah, the manager literally tells the employees to hike prices when certain types walk in. It's like, as long as they get their commission, who cares, right?" Jason felt a chill run down his spine. The casualness with which they discussed the discriminatory practices was as shocking as the content of their conversation. This wasn't just a violation of business ethics, it was outright racial discrimination, happening openly within his own store. Determined to gather more evidence, Jason positioned himself closer to the sales floor's heart, where he could observe more interactions. His attention was soon drawn to a Black couple that entered the store. They were well-dressed and seemed interested in some of the newer road bike models. However, as they approached the counter to ask for assistance, the demeanor of the employee on duty shifted noticeably. The employee, who had been all smiles with the previous white customers, adopted a markedly less enthusiastic tone. His responses were terse, and his body language closed off. When the couple asked about pricing, the numbers he quoted were noticeably higher than what Jason knew to be the standard. Witnessing this firsthand, Jason's initial disbelief turned into anger. The reality of what was occurring under his leadership, because of his absence of vigilant leadership, was hard to stomach. He could see now how the seed of unethical behavior had sprouted and been allowed to grow unchecked. Compelled to take immediate action but needing a more comprehensive understanding, Jason decided to confront the manager directly. As he approached the manager's office, he could hear a voice inside, likely on a call. He knocked sharply, and a surprised manager quickly wrapped up his conversation. "Can I help you?" the manager asked, his tone polite but reserved, not recognizing Jason. Jason decided to reveal his identity. "I think it's time we talked about how this store is being run," he said, removing his sunglasses and fixing the manager with a steady gaze. The manager's eyes widened in recognition and then quickly filled with apprehension. Jason stepped into the office, closing the door behind him to ensure privacy for what would be a challenging confrontation. "Tell me about the pricing strategies you've implemented," Jason began, his voice calm but firm. The manager faltered, initially trying to maintain that all was well and that pricing was consistent across all customer interactions. Jason cut him off. "I've been on the sales floor today. I've seen and heard enough. I know about the discriminatory pricing. I want to understand why you thought this was acceptable." Cornered, the manager confessed. The pressure to increase profits had led him to adopt these unethical practices. He believed targeting certain demographics would minimize complaints and maximize revenue, especially from those he thought less likely to scrutinize or afford the bikes. Appalled by the justification, Jason made it clear that this behavior was not only morally reprehensible, but also legally actionable. He explained that there would be severe consequences, not just for those directly involved, but for the entire management structure that had allowed such practices to flourish. As Jason left the manager's office, he knew that sweeping changes were necessary. It wasn't just a matter of firing a few individuals. The entire company culture needed an overhaul. The trust he had placed in his team had been broken, and it was his responsibility to fix it. He spent the rest of the day taking notes, talking to other staff members, and observing more customer interactions. Each conversation and observation added to his understanding of the depth of the problem and reinforced his resolve to initiate comprehensive reforms. Jason knew the road ahead would be difficult. Restoring Miller's elite cycles to a place of integrity would require more than just policy changes. It would require a recommitment to the foundational values of the business and a re-education of all employees about what those values mean in practice. As he prepared to leave the store at the end of that long day, Jason felt a mix of emotions. The betrayal stung deeply, yet he was also energized by the challenge of steering his company back to its rightful course. This experience had been a harsh lesson, but it was one that would ultimately define the future of Miller's Elite Cycles. Jason paced discreetly around Miller's Elite Cycles, his smartphone in his pocket recording every interaction, every word. His focus sharpened as he observed the cashier, an employee who had been with the store for only a few months, but had quickly adapted to the store's unspoken rules of discrimination. From a distance, Jason watched a black couple approach the register, interested in purchasing a high-end road bike that had also caught the eye of two white men earlier that day. The couple examined the bike, discussing its features and specs with enthusiasm. They seemed ready to make a purchase, a decision that should have been a routine celebration of their passion for cycling. As they approached the cashier to finalize the sale, Jason moved closer, pretending to browse items near the register but listening intently. The cashier rang up the bike, and the price he announced made Jason's heart sink. It was $500 more than what had been quoted to the white customers for the exact same model under the same terms. With his evidence in hand, Jason saw his opportunity to unravel the deceit. He walked up to the counter, feigning confusion. "Hey, I was looking at that bike too. What's the price again?" he asked innocently, nodding towards the bike the couple had chosen. The employee glanced at Jason briefly, assuming he was just another customer, and without a second thought, quoted the original, lower price. Jason turned to the black couple who had paused their transaction, sensing something amiss. "What price were you given?" he asked them directly, his tone serious but friendly. The room fell silent as the couple exchanged a look of confusion and concern before stating the higher price they were about to pay. The disparity in pricing hung in the air, palpable and undeniable. Jason's next move was calculated. He removed his sunglasses slowly, locking eyes with the cashier whose demeanor changed from casual indifference to sudden fear. The cashier's face drained of color as he realized the man he had just underquoted was not just another customer, but the owner of Miller's Elite Cycles. At that moment, the store manager, noticing the unusual gathering at the register and the cashier's pale demeanor, walked over to investigate. His confusion turned to shock as he recognized Jason, not in his usual business attire, but in the guise of an ordinary shopper. Jason didn't miss a beat. "Seems there's been a mistake," he said loudly enough for other customers and employees to hear, his voice steady but edged with a controlled anger. "Could you explain why there's a $500 difference in pricing for the same bike given to different customers?" The manager stuttered, his earlier authority dissolving under Jason's gaze. He fumbled for words, trying to muster an explanation or perhaps an excuse, but none came that could justify the situation. Jason turned to address the gathered crowd, his presence commanding the room. "This is not what Miller's Elite Cycles stands for," he declared, his disappointment evident. "This store, this brand, was built on fairness, quality, and respect for all our customers. What I've witnessed today is a violation of our core values," he continued. "Effective immediately, we will be reviewing all sales transactions from the past 6 months. We will identify any discrepancies, correct them, and ensure full refunds are issued where overcharging has occurred." The manager tried to apologize, to make amends, but Jason held up his hand to stop him. "We will also undergo a full staff retraining, starting with management. And let me be clear," he paused, ensuring he had everyone's attention. "Any employee found complicit in discriminatory practices or price manipulation will be terminated." As the reality of Jason's words sank in, the employees realized the gravity of the situation. This was not merely a rebuke. It was a call to action and a warning that the culture of discrimination and dishonesty was coming to an end. The black couple was immediately apologized to, not just by the cashier, but personally by Jason, who ensured they received not only the correct price, but also an additional discount for their trouble. His gesture was met with gratitude, and the couple left the store reassured of their value as customers. As the day drew to a close, Jason remained in the store, helping to reassure customers and staff alike that the changes he promised were not just immediate fixes, but the beginning of a thorough transformation. His undercover visit, intended initially as a fact-finding mission, had turned into a pivotal moment for Miller's Elite Cycles. Jason knew that the road ahead would be challenging. Restoring trust would take time and consistent effort. However, he was committed to leading by example, to being a visible presence in the store, ensuring that the principles upon which he built his business were not just upheld, but celebrated. As he finally stepped out of the store that evening, the weight of the day's events felt heavy but hopeful. Change would come, not just through policies but through renewed commitment to integrity and respect. Jason felt a renewed sense of purpose, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead in restoring his business to its rightful standing. In the days following the unsettling revelations at Miller's Elite Cycles, Jason Miller took decisive action to rectify the wrongs uncovered during his undercover visit. Understanding the gravity of the situation and its potential implications across his entire chain, he initiated a company-wide investigation into all store locations. This was not just a reactive measure. It was a proactive stance to ensure that the discriminatory practices observed were not widespread throughout his business. As the investigation unfolded, Jason's commitment to transparency and justice did not go unnoticed. News of the incident at his flagship store spread quickly on social media, propelled by customers who had witnessed the confrontation and by the black couple who had been unfairly overcharged. They shared their story, praising Jason for his immediate response and integrity. Soon, the hashtag Cycles of Change began trending, becoming a rallying cry for those who had experienced or opposed discriminatory business practices. The viral nature of the event encouraged other customers to come forward with their experiences. Across various platforms, people began revealing similar treatment in different locations of Miller's Elite Cycles. These accounts painted a troubling picture of inconsistencies and biases that had quietly taken root within some parts of the company. Each new testimony added urgency to the ongoing investigation, broadening its scope and intensity. Faced with this growing body of evidence, Jason realized that systemic change was necessary. It was not enough to address the symptoms of the problem. He needed to tackle its foundation. To this end, he made the difficult decision to overhaul the leadership in several key locations. This was a bold move, signaling his refusal to allow the company's values to be compromised under his watch. Jason personally took part in hiring new management, ensuring that the individuals brought into leadership roles shared his vision for fairness, equality, and exceptional customer service. He looked for candidates who not only had impeccable credentials, but who also demonstrated a genuine commitment to ethical practices and inclusivity. Each new hire was a testament to Jason's dedication to turning a new page for Miller's Elite Cycles. In addition to restructuring the leadership, Jason implemented new training programs for all employees, from cashiers to managers. These programs were designed not just to educate staff on the technical aspects of their roles, but also to foster an understanding of cultural competency and the importance of treating all customers with respect and dignity. The training also included sessions on recognizing unconscious biases and preventing discriminatory practices. The results of these changes began to manifest over the following months. Customers reported a noticeable improvement in their in-store experiences, and employee morale improved as the new policies took root. The commitment to equality and customer satisfaction started to rebuild the trust that had been eroded. Moreover, Jason set up a new customer feedback system, allowing patrons to report their experiences directly to corporate management. This system was part of a broader effort to maintain ongoing dialogue with customers and to ensure that the company remained accountable. The aftermath of the incident thus became a transformative period for Miller's Elite Cycles. Jason's actions not only addressed the immediate issues, but also set a new course for the future of the company. His leadership in the wake of crisis demonstrated a rare blend of humility and resolve, earning him not just restored faith from his customers, but also newfound respect within the industry. As the year drew to a close, Jason reflected on the events that had reshaped his business. He knew that the path ahead would still hold challenges, but he remained committed to leading with integrity. Miller's Elite Cycles had emerged from this crisis not weakened, but stronger and more united in its mission than ever before. Several months after the incident that shook the foundations of Miller's Elite Cycles, a reporter approached Jason during a community event focused on business ethics. The crowd was buzzing with local business owners and journalists eager to learn from Jason's experience. With a microphone in hand, the reporter posed a question that had been on many minds. How does it feel to uncover such troubling issues in your own business? Jason paused, reflecting on the tumultuous journey he had endured. The store around him buzzed with activity, a stark contrast to the silence of that pivotal day when he had exposed the corruption. He looked around, then back at the reporter, his expression composed and resolute. "The truth always comes out," he began, his voice steady and clear. "And when it does, you either fix the problem or you let it destroy you. I chose to fix it." This simple yet profound answer resonated not just with the reporter, but with everyone within earshot. It encapsulated the harsh reality and the critical choice faced by those in leadership. Jason's decision to confront and correct the wrongdoings head-on had not only salvaged his business, but had also transformed it into a beacon of ethical practices. In the months following the overhaul, Miller's Elite Cycles became a model for how businesses could operate with integrity and fairness. The store implemented several innovative practices, such as transparent pricing mechanisms visible to all customers and a robust compliance system that ensured all employees adhered to the new ethical standards. These initiatives set a new standard in the retail industry, drawing attention from business leaders and ethics advocates alike. Customers, both old and new, began to return to the store. They came not only for the high-quality bicycles, but because they trusted the business again. They appreciated the store's commitment to fairness and the visible efforts made to ensure a welcoming environment for everyone, regardless of background or status. The community around Miller's Elite Cycles flourished, with the store often participating in and sponsoring local cycling events and charities, further cementing its place as a pillar of the community. And Jason? The events that had unfolded changed him profoundly. He knew now more than ever the importance of vigilance in leadership. The experience had taught him that being at the helm of a business required more than making executive decisions and managing operations. It demanded continuous engagement and oversight. Jason committed to maintaining a hands-on approach, regularly spending time on the sales floor, engaging with customers and staff, and keeping his finger on the pulse of the store's everyday activities. He also instituted regular anonymous feedback mechanisms for employees, encouraging them to speak up about any issues without fear of repercussions. This open line of communication ensured that problems could be addressed long before they grew into larger issues, maintaining the integrity of the business. Jason's resolve to never stop watching, to never again be oblivious to the operations of his own store, became the cornerstone of his management style. It was a vow to himself, his employees, and his customers that the values of Miller's Elite Cycles would never again be compromised. As Jason concluded his response to the reporter, the crowd nodded in agreement and admiration. The final lesson was clear. Vigilance and integrity are the lifelines of a successful and ethical business. With these principles at the forefront, Jason looked to the future with optimism, ready to face any challenges that might come, knowing that the truth was the foundation upon which his business stood.